All right, tech bros and girls, we need to talk about something that is very important. A lot of us are struggling with the feeling of being overwhelmed. With all these AI tools coming out, we feel like, we have to catch up and have the craziest AI setups so that we can get hired and get the right job. But I want to give you a different perspective on things. And I want to tell you how I managed to really leverage these AI tools in the right way. Not in the best way, but in the right way. Because the way I started was I would look at how other people would set up their agents. And I'd see, oh my God, they have these folders and they have this whole system. They have a project manager, a coding agent. They have all these crazy ass setups. And I feel like, I don't have that. How can I have that? And I have this need, I have to copy them. And that got me nowhere. That just led to procrastination. And so I started to have a different approach, a different mindset on things. And this video is the exact mindset and process that I go through to actually leverage AI in the right way for my life. The hope is for this video is to give you a mindset that can allow you to set up your AI configurations and AI system in a way that works for you. So, starting with the first step, which is mindset. Having the right mindset on how to build AI systems and remembering that we should not be performative. We should not try to copy whatever all these 10x developers, all these Twitter posters have. You have to remember the point of these AI agents is personalization. That's why you're not using an app for it. You're using your own system. You're building your own system. And for that to be useful, it has to come from you, not from someone else. Like, I'm very confident these people have these crazy ass setups. I'm sure most of it they're not actually using, but that's a debate for another video. So the right mindset here is to have a bottom-up approach. That's why I have this these lines to portray that it's more of a bottom-up approach when it comes to building these AI agent systems. The AI hype and all these AI content remind me so much of 2021, where Obsidian was on the rise, and having your own note-taking system and workflow was very popular. And so many of us, including me, fell into that trap thinking, I should have this perfect setup so that my note-taking is flawless. But just like a lot of others have realized, the best way to build a system, whether it's a note-taking system or an AI agent system, is to start from the bottom up. Simple, and then that system will gradually expand to be more complex, but that takes time. So now that we have the right mindset, how do you actually start building the system for yourself? That will take us to step 2, exploration and understanding. And no, I'm not talking about OpenClaw here. I'm talking about simple skills. So there's a website called Skills.sh. This has a lot of skills that are reviewed, validated, and you can see how many people actually use it. That is the best way to get started on leveraging Claude Code to the best of its abilities. Skills are the foundation of these AI tools, and there are thousands. Well, 91,000 to be specific. So just explore and experiment and see how to actually add this CLI into your own repository. So yeah, to summarize, look through the skills in here and then add them into your system. And what I mean by system is just a blank directory. For example, here's mine. I literally just started with these skills. I made my own, but we'll talk about these later. And I also imported some skills from outside. And the goal here is not to keep things clean and structured. Just experiment as much as possible. Try out different skills. Go crazy. But of course, we will have a step down the line that will clean things up and structure things in the right way. But at this point, do not worry about that. That will just cause a lot of procrastination and overthinking. So, third step. Now that you have a good understanding on what actually makes up a skill and how others make these skills, now it's time to look into your own personal life and your own workflows, how you work, what you do for work, what takes a lot of time in your work or energy, and find ways to make a skill resolve them. And what I mean by reflect is like actually sit down and reflect, or walk outside, or End your day by looking back at how your day went and see what part of the day felt so tedious and exhausting. What is wasting so much of my time? And spend a few minutes reflecting on that. So that's the first step, reflecting on them and finding these things and then diagnosing it. And what I mean by diagnose is not like, like catching the bug or figuring out what's taking so much time, but like having a deep understanding of why that's happening and what you can do about it. Because being able to understand your problems fully is easier said than done. You think, oh, I have a good understanding of my problem, but if you sit down and reflect on what the problem actually is and how can it really be solved, you realize, wait, I actually don't know how to like make a skill out of this, because you don't have a deep understanding of the problem. Because that will lead us into the fourth step, which is growing the system. We take that deep problem that we have and talk to AI and tell it, create a skill for me. What used to be the hardest step for all of us now is the easiest step. Because what I used to do and what I believe others are doing is they forget about these first three and they think about the fourth only. How can I grow the system? How can I make a good system? But there are prerequisites for that. So now all we have to do is pass that diagnosis and send it to the Skills Creator skill, which is by Claude. It is somewhere in here. You'll find it here in this repository. And this is by Anthropic itself, the people who invented skills. Let me share an example of some skills that I have. So recently I've been really trying to streamline the process of me creating content. It starts by me speaking my thoughts out. As I'm walking, as I'm working out, I have this transcription service that takes my voice and everything that I yap and transcribes it. So now that I have this transcription, I want to turn that transcription into content. But if I'm someone who doesn't really understand what the bottleneck really is for me when I create content, I wouldn't know what kind of skills I would need. But now that I've been through that process, been through the pain point of making content by myself, I know exactly what skills I need for me to make content in a streamlined way. Another one is communication coaching. I'm someone who's trying to improve my communication skills and my vocabulary, and so I have several skills that I recently curated to help me with that process. But it took me quite a while to understand what I actually need, because as I mentioned, we shall not be performative with this. This is not for anyone else, this is for ourselves. So build what actually genuinely helps you and not what looks good. Okay, next step is maintain the system. So as I mentioned in step 2, things might get chaotic and it might look very messy. So that's the step where we kind of structure things out and figure out, okay, I'm noticing there's a lot of patterns in here where I have all these skills for content and then all these skills for communication. And so what I do is create folders for them. And yeah, from here, you just cycle from 2 to 5, 2 to 5, 2 to 5 until you master everything. For example, now I've reached a point where I've mastered skills. So I'm going to go for the next level, which is automations and cron jobs. So now I'm going to go back to step 2, where I explore how others use that and then see how it can be applied to my own life so I can reflect, diagnose, and then build automations for this specific case. So no matter where you're at right now, step 2 to 5 is how I would approach trying new technologies. And lastly, remember the AI is built to be an assistant, and assistants in general in real life and in AI life, they work the best when you give them all the information that they need. Of course, there are a lot of skills for that. There's a skill called Grill Me that will basically ask you questions and questions to get the AI to really understand what it's trying to do. So if you're the kind of person who struggles to really clearly share information to the AI and instructions, Grill Me is a really good skill to have. But yeah, that's for you to explore in your own time. So with that said, I hope that helped. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments. And yeah, also my skills are all open source, so feel free to check them out and take a look at them to fulfill the step 2 part of the workflow. And with that, I can officially tell you that you have graduated from the CAT University. Goodbye.